What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Have you ever heard that saying before? Of course, I always like to take those types of statements and find their logical extremes. Which leads me to then say, what doesn't make you stronger kills you. The first statement seems encouraging, but the second one isn't so nice. The basic idea is that hard work pays off, even when it is very difficult. Have you felt like a task was pushing you to your limit? Perhaps you hiked all day until your legs just would not move at all. I remember this feeling when hiking up Table Mountain in South Africa. Perhaps you worked on something that seemed impossible. Once I had to dig a hole to locate a leaking pipe next to the Japanese embassy. The pipe was supposed to be 3 feet below the surface. I was well over 6 feet deep, about to give up when, clank, I finally hit the pipe. One of my worst experiences was when I worked for UPS and had to unload thousands of boxes per hour. It was only 4 hours a day, but the hours were midnight to 4 a.m., and I had an 8 o'clock class at the Bible college. In the mornings, I'd have to run my hands under hot water just so I could get my fingers to move again. And I was minoring in piano. This is bad news. Is there anything worth working so hard for that it just might break you? Jesus gives us a fear-based motivator for staying on task. In Matthew 10:28, Jesus tells us that fear should actually motivate us to trust God when things seem bleak. He says, "Don't fear those who kill the body but are unable to kill the soul. Rather, fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." In other words, there are bigger things at stake than all that this life has to offer. When we understand this, we are less likely to avoid discomfort and more likely to accept difficulty when eternity is on the table. Jesus isn't simply painting a bleak picture that encourages us to follow him to even the most difficult places. He also tells us that the payoff for our faithfulness far outweighs anything, easy or difficult, we will experience in this life. I like how Jesus explains this in Mark 10. He's just finished encouraging the rich young ruler to give up everything he owned in order to follow Jesus. Unfortunately, all the rich young ruler could hear was what it would cost him. He only heard what he would have to sacrifice. His preferences, his lifestyle, his security, the ease that came with his financial status. He could not hear the reward that was woven into Jesus' statement. It's true. Jesus said a lot of things that are difficult for us to embrace. But instead of looking at the difficulty, look first for the reward. In Mark 10, Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, there is no one who has left house or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or fields for my sake and for the sake of the gospel, who will not receive 100 times more." Now at this time, houses, brothers and sisters, mothers and children, and fields with persecutions, and eternal life in the age to come. At this point in our study, the church has been given the task of pointing people to the Lord's glory by proclaiming Jesus, the gospel, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Yes, this will be hard, and at times it was outright dangerous. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Or maybe I should word it, what doesn't destroy your soul in hell leads to eternal joy. What I need to ask myself daily is, do I really believe this? And if so, wisdom says that my life will show this belief by not only my actions, but what I will willingly give up in order to relentlessly point to the glory of Jesus. Do you believe this? And how does your life show it? Are you committed to Jesus when it's unpopular? Will you stubbornly hold to Jesus' compassionate character even when it costs you? Listen to these verses from the middle of the Sermon on the Mount and then ask yourself if you love Jesus enough to follow this kind of gospel. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same?